Hey everyone, apologize for my voice. I'm still fighting off a cold, but I wanted to talk to you guys about the pros and cons of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. This is coming from someone who has played every version of Dragon Quest VII so far, starting with Dragon Warrior VII back on the PlayStation 1, which was my third favorite Dragon Quest game for a very, very long time, and then of course playing the 3DS remake, which was really well done as well, but I felt like was a pretty big step back from the PS1 version. Don't get me wrong, they're both still really good games, but I still preferred the PS1 version, and now finally getting my hands on Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Of course, this is based entirely off of my experience playing the demo, but the demo was like 6 hours long. I'm like an old school JRPG guy. I like to talk to all the characters and interact with everyone and learn everything I can about the world. So I spent a lot of time in this demo, like I said, 6 hours. I mean, that's longer than some games. I was able to come up with a list of pros and cons, and I just wanted to share them with you guys so you guys know ahead of time what are the good things, what are the bad things about this game, and how this game kind of compares to the previous versions of Dragon Quest VII. If you enjoy Dragon Quest content, JRPG content, top 10 videos, reviews, and podcasts, please remember to like, subscribe, turn notifications to all so you don't miss the next video. You can also join the channel if you want to help support it. Now let's begin. Alright, so the first thing you're going to notice when you fire this bad boy up are the amazing graphics. I love this graphical style, and it just looked so good. The visuals are absolutely crisp. The monster designs look so good in this style, as do the character designs. The world looks so good. The water looks incredible. It's just a very, very gorgeous game, and it's one of the first things I noticed upon firing it up. It just blew me away. It looks so much better when you're actually like sitting down playing it than when you're just like watching gameplay of it. I don't know how to explain that, but this is like the first game I've probably ever experienced that is like that. The next thing is tight gameplay that doesn't waste any of your time. So when the developers talked about streamlining Dragon Quest VII, obviously they're wanting to cut as little as possible from the game, but other ways that they can save on time is by streamlining the gameplay itself. So combat is quick and snappy. The default setting when in battle is to actually remember what your last command was, so you can just spam your way through that if you'd like. The menu system in battle is so well done. There's no time wasted between turns. The monsters will even sometimes attack 2 or 3 at a time in groups, so that you're not having to wait for each monster to attack. If there's a whole group of one type of monster, sometimes they'll all attack if they're attacking one character. Speeds things up so much, and it kind of looks cool and adds a little bit to the game as well, I think. There's also, of course, ways to speed up combat on your own. I never even had to speed up the combat. I just stuck with the default combat speed, and it was fast enough for me. It looked fantastic. It's easy to get around. You start off with the zoom spell, so you don't have to worry about like wasting time walking from place to place. If you want to zoom to a place you've already been to, you can go ahead and do that. It never feels like it's wasting your time, and I can't necessarily say that about at least the original. The next pro I got to talk to you about is the great, sleek, and streamlined menuing interface. Your inventory, you never have to like open a bunch of menus to, oh, let's check this character's inventory. Let's check what this character has equipped. You just open the menu, you press up and down to change between the characters very, very seamlessly. And all their equipment is on the bottom. You don't have to go into a menu to select equipment. If you want to go to the item screen, it's just a press of a button. You don't have to like scroll through menus to get to that as well. It's very streamlined. Again, speeding things up without taking anything away from it, and I think it looks really, really good too. It's going to take some time getting used to it. It's not that I don't like it. I really, really like it, but it is definitely going to take some time getting used to, because I'm not used to this kind of a menu when it comes to like JRPGs, especially Dragon Quest games. And speaking of which, inventories are shared by the entire party now, so each character doesn't have their own individual items that they're holding or weapons that they're holding. You can just grab from essentially the bag at any time. Everybody has access to everything all of the time. Super, super handy, especially in battle. There's none of those situations where you're like, oh crap, I used up all my medicinal herbs in the last battle, and I forgot to move some out of my bag onto that character, so now I'm kind of screwed. No, if you have the items on you at all, everybody has access to them. Super nice. Super handy, especially in battle. And to add to that, another pro is you can set your favorites. So for stuff like armor and weapons, I know late game or at least mid-game in Dragon Quest games, I'll usually be like dual using weapons. For example, for the hero, I usually use a boomerang when I'm fighting like regular mobs, and then when I get to a boss fight, I'll switch to a sword, right? And with Dragon Quest, you can always change that in battle, which is nice, but sometimes you got to dig a little bit, right? Your inventory gets shuffled a little, so you got to go to the second page maybe to equip that sword you usually like. But now you can just favorite it, and it'll be right there on the front. It's super, super handy and a very good feature. Another pro, you can track your vocation progress much easier. There's a little circle that kind of fills in, and the more it fills in, the closer you are to the next vocation level. Super good. I hated having to guess whether I was even getting any vocation experience in the other versions, so this is fantastic. This is way better than the other versions in terms of grinding vocations and all that. Another pro is they've added that feature where you can just one-shot enemies if you're too strong to fight them. If you were going to one-shot them all in battle anyways, you can just one-shot them on the world map, and they'll just get defeated. You get a little bit of experience, you get a little bit of gold, you get a little bit of vocation experience, and you're on your way. You don't have to waste any time going into the battle screen, selecting your attacks, wiping out the enemy, and then switching back to the world map. It just, you stay on the world map, you wipe out the enemy in one shot, and it's just so nice. Another pro I have to mention is the voice acting in this game. A lot of people complain about the voice acting in the Dragon Quest games, or at least the English voice acting, and I gotta say, this is like the best of the best in my opinion. In fact, Maribel's voice actress is so good that I actually think she's a good character in this version. I hate Maribel, but now I love to hate Maribel. It's just the way she like enunciates parts of her phrases and sentences that make it stand out so much, and makes her really feel like that annoying sister that your mom forced you to bring along when you're hanging out with your friends. The voice actress does such a good job of making her sound so naggy, and it's really well done. And then when she's being sweet, she pulls that off perfectly as well. All the voice acting in this game is really good, but Maribel really stands up even above the rest. Just like with the interface and all that, buying and selling at shops is quicker and easier than ever. You switch between weapons and items. You don't have like an item shop and a weapon shop. You can buy it all in one place, which is nice. You're not having to go to multiple places. And then it shows you immediately, this is what each character can equip. This is what the gains and losses will be if we equip those things. You can equip them immediately from the shop, and you're never really going into menus in this game. And that is what is so mind-boggling to me and kind of blows my mind. It's so surprising because Dragon Quest is really the JRPG of menus out of any JRPG series I played. Like, I'm used to that black background with a bunch of text going through all the menus. And I think maybe stuff like this is what they're talking about when Yuji Horii was saying that they wanted to make changes to the battle system in Dragon Quest XII. I think they're going to make it a lot more like seamless, so you're not having to like menu so much. You can just like hit an input. This is what's going to happen. It's going to happen now. And you don't have to scroll through text and menus to make what you want to happen. The stores and shops in this game are so handy. It's so much quicker to sell your stuff. It's so much quicker to buy stuff and see if it's worth buying. And I just love what they've done with this. Another pro is there are multiple difficulty settings. So you've got your default, like your hard, easy, normal, but then you can tweak your own difficulties. So you can fully customize your difficulty. A few people have been saying they've been like increasing the strength of the monsters and then increasing the EXP and gold gained. So you kind of have to work a little bit harder to take out the enemies, but you're also rewarded more for your hard work. So it's kind of cool, man. And then if you are struggling, you can always tweak those settings to however you want them. If you suck at a boss, you find out you're very vastly underleveled and you've been just playing on normal this whole time, quickly crank the difficulty down, juice up the EXP, juice up the gold gained, and smash through some enemies, gain a crap load of levels way quicker. You don't have to worry about grinding on nothing but metal slimes and stuff like that. Another pro is the monster animations look absolutely amazing. In battle, the monsters just look quirky. I've talked about how well designed they look and how well they look graphically, but in motion, they look even better. They just look goofy. They're screwing around sometimes. Some of them are like chasing each other. Some of them are warming up around the fire on like the overworld or in the dungeons, and they just look so good. I mean, the crab boss, he's got his little boots. He's tapping his boot in the back there. I just love the monster animations in this game, and it makes them feel more alive and lifelike, and I absolutely love it. Another great thing in battle is that it shows you when a move or ability is going to be super effective or weak against a certain monster. This helps remove so much time spent trial and erroring all your abilities to see what is going to be kind of strong against each individual monster. You can kind of just figure it out, scroll through your abilities. It'll tell you, hey, this is strong against this guy, weak against this guy, and you kind of know what to use against each monster. I really appreciate it. It doesn't feel too like invasive. It's just another way that they're kind of speeding up the game without removing anything from the game. Another pro is this game has its own kind of coup de grace or pep power system called getting worked up. And once your character is worked up, you can let loose. And when you let loose, each vocation has its own special ability, kind of like the coup de grace in Dragon Quest IX and X. What's nice about this is it is much more frequent than the coup de grace were in Dragon Quest IX. So it's not going to be just like once in a blue moon where you get to use these abilities. The abilities are definitely a little bit more powered down, I would say, than they were in Dragon Quest IX and X, but it kind of balances out because you're going to be using these quite a bit. You're probably going to encounter one of these like once every 5 to 6 battles, whereas in Dragon Quest IX and X, it was almost never you would get your coup de grace. So that's super, super nice. Plus, if you get worked up and you don't want to use your let loose ability, you got about 3 turns to use it. So if you defeat the enemies quick enough, you can keep that let loose ability until you get to a boss and then use it on the boss. So it carries over between battles. You get about 3 turns. Kind of similar. I think the pep powers work like that as well in Dragon Quest XI, but super nice. This is a really good system and I love what they've done with it. Of course, I got to comment on the world map. I love that it's more like zoomed out and more open and free. I really didn't like in the 3DS remake where it was just like zoomed right in. It just felt so like claustrophobic. And to me, Dragon Quest is about exploring these giant, vast open worlds, especially Dragon Quest VII. So when I played the 3DS version, that was one of my biggest problems I had with the game. I really didn't like how it felt like you were just in this little area, little pocket area, and you were walking down this little narrow hallway until you get to the next screen, and then you're in another little area. This is wide open on the world map. It looks phenomenal. The dungeons look great. Everything looks really well done. And the last thing, the thing that surprised me probably the most, is that there's more than one ending to these stories now. So in the demo, we obviously only have access to the Rexwood or Ballymaloy story, so I'm only going to be able to kind of comment on that, but I got a different ending than most of the people watching my stream, and in fact, I got a different ending than I've ever gotten doing this quest. There's an item you get in the quest, and you're supposed to give it to the kid, and it triggers a series of events during the boss fight in that story, and those events did not happen. My ending was completely different than the ending I'm used to getting in this story. It wasn't, like, better. I would say this was a worse ending than the original ending, but the fact that I can change the outcome of these stories is something that you could never do before, and that's pretty damn cool, and adds for a lot of replay value, I think, because there are a lot of stories in Dragon Quest VII, and if you can get different outcomes in all of these stories, that adds a ton of replay value as far as I'm concerned. If you're enjoying the video and you haven't yet, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out so much, and that way you won't miss the next video. All right, starting off with probably my #1 pet peeve of this game, the beginning definitely does feel rushed. That was like one of my biggest concerns was, okay, everybody's biggest complaint about Dragon Quest VII is the beginning drags on. It's like 3 to 4 hours before you get your first monster encounter, which is, I get it, some people find that boring, but there's a lot of world building in that first few hours of Dragon Quest VII. To me, you need to feel like Fishbell and Estrid Island is your home. It's the only island that's ever existed, the only one anyone ever knows about, and it is the most peaceful and boring island of all time. That is what drives you and Kiefer and Maribel to seek adventure. But I also feel like you need to know the community of Estrid Island. You need to feel like you're integrated into the town, into the kingdom, and that you know all these characters before you set off into these other worlds using the tablets. I feel like that didn't really happen here. I feel like everybody was just like kind of pushing you out the door almost. Like you'll talk to an NPC and they'll be like, oh yeah, this place was always peaceful. There's never anything bad gonna happen. And it's just like, it seems kind of cheesy. I didn't like the way they did that. that. And yeah, it just really felt like they were trying to like push you out the door. I never really felt like Estrid Island was my home before leaving, and I feel like that's a very, very important feeling that the player should have in Dragon Quest VII. Another con is I didn't mind what they did with the trials. They changed the trials quite a bit. Like, it's not really comparable at all to the original trials or even the 3DS version of the trials, like at all. Not the same at all. But one of the trials I didn't really like at all, and that was there's like a boss fight kind of thing. It's like a mini boss fight. And Estrid Island is supposed to be an island of peace. There are no monsters in the world. There never have been. And having this encounter on Estrid Island before you go to a new world using the tablets, it just kind of breaks it. It breaks that feeling of, yes, this is a peaceful world. This is just how the world is. It also kind of makes what should be your first battle not make a whole lot of sense. Because Maribel's like, oh my god, monsters. And Kiefer and the hero are like, what? Monsters? And you have to go into a battle. And nobody's ever fought before on Estrid Island. So it's just, it takes that away, I feel, having that trial where you fight these boss characters on Estrid Island. I thought that was really dumb. Didn't like that at all. And it also plays into the fact that you've been walking around this peaceful island for like 2 to 3 hours. You've spent many nights here hanging out with your friends, getting to know the community, getting to know your family. And then all of a sudden you go through this tablet, you don't expect things to be different. And then all of a sudden there are monsters everywhere. And you're like, what the heck is this? This is not home. I feel like you don't really get that feeling nearly as much in the Reimagined. And I know I mentioned this as a pro, but this is also a con. The shared inventory. I feel like I don't sell weapons a lot. I will just like hold on to things for a very long time because I never know if they're going to integrate like a crafting system later on in a JRPG. I don't want to get rid of all my weapons and items because maybe I'll need them to craft some cool stuff. Well, because I'm sitting on a stockpile of weapons at all times, if I didn't think to favorite something and I needed to switch to it quickly in battle, I am now sharing an inventory with every single character in the game. I'm going to have to scroll through walls and pages of inventory in order to find the stuff I want. I feel like that is possibly going to be a nightmare in the late game. We'll have to wait and see. This one's kind of a pro and a con because I don't know. Maybe this won't be an issue late game, but I could really see it being an issue when you have a ton of items and a ton of weapons and armor. I mean, imagine having to sift through the entire bag when you're in battle trying to change weapons or use an item. That's what I'm kind of afraid of. And the final con I wanted to mention is so out of character for me. I don't like puzzles, okay? I hate them. I suck at puzzles. But I feel like the puzzles in Dragon Quest VII Reimagined are too few and too rushed. I feel like you never really get to feel like you're even doing a puzzle. For example, when you're in the rainbow mine or whatever it's called, and you're pushing the same colored rocks to match up with, there are like several screens of that in the original. And even in the 3DS remake, there's a ton of puzzle solving there where you have to find the right route through the rooms. Dude, there's that one room in Reimagined that is in the other versions of the game, and there are no rainbow colored marbles in there at all. You just walk through the room. It felt super dull. I really didn't like that. I felt like they were like just going through the paces. They were just trying to check off a box, getting you, oh yeah, this is the rainbow mine. I felt like I was just going through the motions, and it didn't really immerse me in the puzzle. It didn't really immerse me in the gimmick of that area. And I'm worried for later parts of the game because each story kind of has its own little gimmicks, story elements, and unique features. And I just really don't want to feel like I'm being rushed through them. I want to enjoy them for what they're supposed to be. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you took something from it. Let me know your thoughts on Dragon Quest VII Reimagined down in the comments if you've played the demo. If you haven't played the demo, let me know what you think of everything I said here. Are you a little bit nervous playing this now? Are you more optimistic than you were before? Let me know down in the comments. I am definitely still looking forward to this game. I had like a ton of pros, maybe like 4 cons. This game is going to be an absolute blast. I love the way it looks. I love the way it plays. There's just a few things, a few little setbacks that might not even be setbacks when we get later into the game. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.